James D. Bindenagel, born 1949, is considered a leading expert of transatlantic relations with a special focus on German-American relations. With nearly 47 years of professional experience, Mr. Bindenagel has been the Henry Kissinger Professor and the Director of the Center for International Security and Governance at the University of Bonn, which he founded in 2014. In the last decade of the 20th century, he was, among others, acting US ambassador to the Federal Republic of Germany. Before, he was deputy chief of mission to the Embassy of the United States of America in Germany, and from 1989 to 1990, he was deputy chief of mission at the United States Embassy to the German Democratic Republic. Among many awards, James D. Bindenagel is a recipient of the Grand Cross of Merit of the Federal Republic of Germany. At the end of his Henry Kissinger Professorship, he continues his work as a senior professor at the Center for Advanced Security, Strategic and Integration Studies. His book, Germany from Peace to Power, Can Germany Lead in Europe Without Dominating It?, was published in 2020. Professor Bindenagel, the 3rd of October was a Wednesday. With the entry of the German Democratic Republic to the Federal Republic of Germany, the reunification was formally completed. How did your working life change from the 2nd to the 4th of October? At that time, you were Deputy Chief of Mission at the United States Embassy to the German Democratic Republic.
Well, that evening, late in October 2nd, 1990, my wife and I left the U.S. Embassy to the GDR for the last time and walked through the Brandenburg Gate to see the celebration happening on the other side, and knowing that in the morning there would be no East Germany, there would be no West Germany either, there would be a united Germany. And for us in the East Germany, in the East U.S. Embassy to the East Germany that no longer existed, we returned to the United States a few weeks later to pursue other things. It was a wonderful moment to see that in freedom and through a revolution that the Germans in the East exercised self-determination, had a free and fair election for democracy and parliamentary democracy, and voted themselves to join in with the Federal Republic of Germany's basic law. A wonderful sense of freedom, united in Germany and united in Europe.
Beyond consular matters, what was your diplomatic mission with regard to the citizens of the GDR?
With the citizens, we had very little contact, we must say, but we had a very important and active economic relationship, business relationship, particularly focused on the Leipzig Fair, where American businessmen sought to do business with the GDR. There was a way to create a connection with the GDR as we tried to do that. But with the normal society, we were really prohibited, mostly because of the penalties of the East Germans on their own citizens in talking to Americans.
To what extent were you involved in the work of the American Embassy in Bonn or the US mission in West Berlin?
We really weren't. There were really two missions, two countries at that time. The role of the West German mission and in Bonn and in West Berlin was the dominant role, dealing with major issues of the Federal Republic of Germany and with the occupation of Berlin with the other four powers. For us, was to create some kind of relationship mostly with the government in the first instance. Germany, the United States recognized East Germany in 1974, only when John Sherman Cooper became the first ambassador. And we had a mission to keep conversations going, keep connections going, but there was really very little that was coming out of that period of time.
What happened, for example, when incidents involving US military personnel occurred in East Berlin? Were you in charge? The People's Police in East Berlin or the Soviet Union Army when problems arose?
Well, the city itself was neither part of the Federal Republic of Germany nor of East Germany. It was under the four powers' control of the occupying powers. So if there were incidents of American soldiers in the East, then they would be dealt with in the four power context. That would be with the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union also came to West Berlin and to West Germany as well in military liaison missions, in which they had an opportunity to operate independently to observe what was happening, as we did in the United States had from West Berlin, that is Potsdam, outside of West Berlin. We had a military liaison mission in the East, and drove around and observed what was happening in the East. So it was really more to deter military action than anything else.
A long-standing bond strengthened the friendly relationship with the US, especially in West Berlin. Were there opportunities for you to develop a kind of friendly bond in East Berlin on a personal level?
That was very, very difficult because of the restrictions that the East Germans had on their citizens. The one place it was possible was church. We were Catholics, and down the street from us in Platanenstrasse was a Maria Magdalena church, and our children were 7 and 9 years old and met children of the same age, and we met their parents. And in that context, we could actually become friends with them. We are still friends with some of them, and to try to talk about what life was like for them and the difficulties. So, for instance, because these children were Christians, they did not expect to go to university. That's one of the restrictions at the university that the East Germans put on their own citizens. So it was really very, very difficult, and we did not want to endanger others. But we let them decide if they wanted to be associating with us.
What expectations did you have at that time with regard to the further development of the German-US relationship and its impact on United Berlin in particular?
You know, when you look at what happened and you look at the revolution of 1989, you're first struck with the courage for freedom. That is, Thucydides said the secret of freedom is courage, and we could see that in the people coming to our church, but also particularly in Leipzig on the 9th of October. Very, very strong sense of courage to stand up for their rights. The second is in the fall of the Berlin Wall. It was really a sentence from President Wilson's fifth principle of his 14-point plan, that self-determination. And the East Germans, in particular in East Berlin, took their government to their own hands and brought down the Berlin Wall. And then third was that they had a free and fair election. And a free and fair election brought the possibility for East Germany to make a decision to join West Germany in freedom and in democracy, which was wonderful. And then followed that, sovereignty was returned, and the four powers from the Second World War ended their rights and responsibilities. It is a fundamental right now for Germany to take on more responsibility and to do it together with the United States and with the West, because as Adenauer did in the 1950s, chose Germany to follow a path of democracy and freedom in the West, and that's the challenge that is today.
You talked about Thucydides, secret of freedom is courage. How could you support this courage of the citizens of the GDR?
It's interesting. We had some very close friends in the dissident movement in East Berlin, and we kept talking to them constantly, so that when they had demonstrations, or they sat at the Gethsemane Kirche, or they did the human chain across the country, that they would know that we would be in the U.S. Embassy reporting this, telling the story that they were doing rather than letting the East German communists tell the story, and let them know that we appreciated what they were doing. It's very hard until we had a chance to bring Secretary Baker there, where he made it official, and a very strong meeting with Manfred Stolbe and ministers of the Lutheran Church to say that we stood with them calling on them not to be violent, as they were also calling not to be violent, and endorsing that kind of effort to find a way to resolve the revolution peacefully.
Which expectations or wishes do you have today?
Today, I see Germany as a sovereign state, the richest, wealthiest, and most secure nation in Europe, as having a special responsibility to act and to lead in Europe, as I said in my book, and to take on those responsibilities not alone, but with the Europeans and with the Americans. And with those three together, we will have an opportunity to ensure that we have peace and prosperity in the future.
So, please tell us the story behind the selected photography.
Yes, the photograph of my children. We lived not far from the Berlin Wall, near Wohlangstrasse and the Platanenstrasse, and went often to the park next to the wall, and saw the patrols and were seeing difficult life on the wall itself. Our first experience was going to a cemetery near the wall in Pankow itself, near Wohlangstrasse. And as we wandered through the graveyard, we were approached by armed policemen who told us we had gone too far and ordered us back. And having a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old confronted by armed policemen in a peaceful cemetery was very, very, very impressive for our children. And when we saw the wall come down and began to chip away at it, we too wanted to be part of those who chipped away at the wall. And we came out in this particular day with the children and hammers and tried to also collect a few pieces of the Berlin Wall. A East Berliner going by asked if he would like to take a picture of it, and we said yes, of course. And behind us were still the border police in their Trabi Jeep, armed still, and it left us with the feeling that this is the kind of memory we want to have. The wall came down because of the East Germans, and the police were still there, but they were no longer frightening.
Thank you, Professor Bindenagel, for the interview.
Thank you.